Jai Hari-bol. Sri Rama Ekadasi ki Jai. Sudha Bhakata Charanareno Bhajanayanu Kula Bhakata Seva Paramasiri Premalati Karamula Sudha Bhakata Charanareno Bhajanayanu Kula Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jatane Palana Kori Krishna Basati Basati Bholi Paramaya Dhare Bhori Gaurayamara Jeja Sabastane Karalo Brahmanarange Sesabhastana Heri Boyami Pranayi Bhakata Sange Mridhanga Bhadya Shunite Mana Avasara Sadajache Ghora Bihito Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridaya Nache Yughala Murti Dekhiya Mora Paramaya Nandahaya Prasada Seva Karite Haya Sakala Panchaya Sudha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Jedina Grihe Bhajana Dekhi Grihete Goloka Bhaya Charana Sindhu Dekhiya Ganga Sukhana Sima Paya Tulasi Dekhi Juraya Prana Madhava Toshani Jani Ghora Priya Shaka Sevane Jivana Sarthaka Mani Bhakti Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Paya Jaha Prapti Divase Paramasuke Swikarakaro Yetha Sudhavakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Sudhavakata Charanarenu Bhajanayanu Kula Jaya Madhavatiti Jaya Ekadasi Jaya Madhavatiti Jaya Ekadasi Jaya Bhakti Janani Jaya Ekadasi Bhakti Janani Jaya Ekadasi Jaya Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Hari-bol 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 Nitai Gaura Hari-bol Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.
And then we finish up with Mukharavinda. No, we start with Hari-deva, always. Don't argue. Hari-deva.
Maharaj. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ekadasi Maharaj, can someone do Jai Dwani? Jai Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Girit
Start
Hari.
with Hari-deva, my darling, and then we do. Oops.
Shri Shri Jai, once again, Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Girit Hari, Shri Shri Radha Damodar Radha Vinod Bihari Radha Madan Mohan Radha Govinda Radha Gopinath Chukki Jai Jai Nitalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Chararavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Mahabhagavad Srila Gaur Kishoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Sachitananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Gaurivedanta Charja Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai Srila Vishwanath Chagori Thakur Ki Jai Shri Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Adi Gaura Parshamini Ki Jai Namacharya Shahadas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Shri Navritam Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai Shamakunda Radha Kunda Jamuna Ganga Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanunandini Shri Mati Radharani Ki Jai Lalita Vishaka Aryasta Sakya Vinda Ki Jai Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari Adi Manjari Vinda Ki Jai Purnamasi Devi Ki Jai Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakrajuk Ki Jai Bhakta Vignaminath Sri Narsingha Bhagavan Ki Jai Bhakta Raj Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Bhuvana Mangala Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Brihat Padanga Ki Jai Ekadasi Titi Ki Jai Shri Braj Mandal Parikram Ki Jai Urjavat Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai 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 Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna, Dalabat Pranams. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Nityananda Prabhu, for that beautiful kirtan as well. I'll just say a short pranams quickly. Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmani Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Asachadeshatarine. First of all, I want to pay my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Siddhanti Maharaj, unto all our Rupanuga Guru Varga, unto all the assembled devotees, especially unto Sripad Siddhanti Maharaj, Sripad Shuddhaveda Maharaj, and Sripad Vaikanas Maharaj. Dandavat pranams and welcome everyone to day 11 of our virtual parikrama. I'm Ekadasi, and it's an honor for me to be here today to go through our virtual parikrama. On day 11 for today, we are going to several places. If you can see my screen, we are going to be going to Sri Hari-deva Temple, Sri Brahma-kunda, Cakalesvara Mahadeva, Sri Sanatana Gosvami bhajana-kutira, and Mukharavinda. So our very first speaker for today, I hand over to Sripad Siddhanti Maharaj, who's going to take us through our first places. Maharaj, over to you.
Dandavat Janava, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tarsara Shishimad Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again to our beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tarsara Shishimad Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And all our Rupanuga Guru Varga. And to our parikrama today. Oh, Ekadasi Ki Jai. Ekadasi Ki Jai. So thank you all for coming to our parikrama today. Today is a short parikrama, as we have already stated. We're just going to circumambulate Manasaganga. And our Sripad Bhaktivedanta Vaikanis Maharaj will describe the appearance of Manasaganga later on. So we start our parikrama with Hari-deva. Actually, if ever we do a parikrama of Giriraj Govardhana, it must only be with the mercy of Hari-deva. This is Hari-deva temple here. You'll remember, without his mercy, our parikrama will have no success at all. So it's a very beautiful temple. It used to be much bigger, like many of the temples here, but our friend Aurangzeb, he decided to reduce the size of these temples. So it's much reduced in size. The original deity is now in a place called Rajdhani, which is near Kanpur. So this was taken out when the tyrannical Aurangzeb was putting fear into all the pujaris, etc. So if you open your screen, you can see this beautiful, beautiful Hari-deva. He's like a relief in the wall, very beautiful deity. This deity manifested, it was a self-manifested, the original deity, when the gopis were sitting on the banks of Manasaganga, which is just very, very close by, and they were calling out to Krishna. They were lamenting in deep separation, and they called for a long, long time, many hours they were, and the height of the intensity of their separation was increasing and increasing, and they were practically ready to give up their lives. And finally, Hari-deva, Krishna, manifested before them in the form of this beautiful deity holding Govardhana hill. There's a young boy about 7 years old, and he's holding Giriraj Govardhana in his hand. So he manifested here in his murti form, and the gopis were overwhelmed with joy, and they offered all their offerings to him. And for many months and years after that, they would continue to offer their flowers and fruits, etc., to Hari-deva here on the banks of Manasaganga. But when we think of this personality, we always remember how the gopis, they would chant in their Venu Geet. The Venu Geet is the first of the Geets in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapter 21, when Shukadeva Goswami begins to speak about the gopis. And in this Gopi Geet chapter, there's the most beautiful verse, I think it's 17 or 18, 17. Hantaryam adir abala Hari-deva Yad Rama Krishna Charana Pramoda Shama. Yanno, what's that verse? Hantaryam adir abala Hari-deva Yad Rama Krishna Charana Sparsha Pramoda. Manum tanoti sahogoganastat panayas suryavas kandare mulai. So this verse was chanted by the gopis, proclaiming that Giriraj is the Hari-deva. He's the topmost servant of Krishna. And every single year, my Gurudev would describe very beautifully the same katha, how there are three Haridasas. First Haridas, great servant, is Yudhishthira Maharaj. When Yudhishthira Maharaj performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna, he wanted to wash the feet of all the rishis and the brahmanas who had attended. So he took that seva. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was encouraging his brothers, Nakula, Sahadev, Arjuna, etc., all to take shelter of Krishna. And he was proclaiming Krishna as the principal personality at that Rajasuya sacrifice. And he engaged his wives, he engaged his family, he engaged his whole kingdom in serving exclusively Sri Krishna, Dwarkadish Krishna. He was engaging him. So he is Hari-das. He worships Krishna in such a topmost way, Yudhisthira Maharaj. And then there's a second personality who is Uddhav. And Uddhav, we know he was sent as a messenger by Krishna to Braj to console his parents and the gopis in Braj when he was in Mathura. And Uddhav is very, very close to Krishna, so close to Krishna. And he's also Hari-das, but he's not Hari-das Avarya. Only Giriraj Govardhana, who's represented here today by Hari-deva. He is Hari-das Avarya. The gopis are in a mood of Purvarag. They're in a mood of anticipation while they're singing this divine prayer, this Venu Geet. And in this prayer, Hantaryam Adir Abala, this word Abala in the first line, Hantarya Adir Abala, is saying that they are feeling without power in comparison to Giriraj, because Giriraj, they're declaring, is that Hari-das Avarya. He's the greatest servant of the Lord because he gives his entire body. Yudhisthira Maharaj didn't give his body to the Lord. He gave all his material wealth, everything in his possession he gave. Uddhav also gives everything in his possession, but the gopis give even more than this. Oh, thank you, Nitai. Yes, that's the verse that I'm quoting. So the gopis are feeling less than the rest of the Brijvasis. They're feeling less than, they're saying they are abala. They are not powerful. Bala means powerful. So they're saying that they're not powerful. This is the mood of one who has deep, deep anurag for Krishna. They always feel that their service is much less. This is the dynamic, we can say, of someone who genuinely has prem. They are always the most humble personalities. So the gopis have so much prem, but they have so much humility at the same time. Oh, thank you, Balabhadra. You've given me the translation. Yes. So it doesn't stay on the screen very long. So this is the gopis' mood. They're glorifying Giriraj as that greatest Hari-das Avarya, the greatest servant of Krishna. Because Giriraj, he gives his whole body, he gives every particle of himself for Krishna's pastimes. He creates beautiful grasses for the cows to graze on. He creates beautiful places for the sakas to have their extraordinary games and so on. He creates the caves for the gopis to perform their Nikunja Leelas. He creates all the fruits, all the beautiful environment for Krishna's past, not just Krishna, but his cows and his sakas. Giriraj is completely wanting to facilitate Krishna's pleasure in every single possible way. Even in the summer seasons, in the winter season, he becomes warm. In the summer season, he becomes cool. He does everything, whatever is needed to support Krishna's pastimes, to make his pastimes more relishable. So this is Hari-das Avarya, and this is the place we've come to today. Now we are in Govardhana. We've traveled through from many forests, from Vrindavan in particular. We were across the river yesterday in Bandiravan and Bandaravat, and now we've come here to the township of Govardhana. This Hari-deva is in the township of Govardhana, and it's the most prominent temple in Govardhana, and it's the beginning of our parikrama, our internal parikrama of Govardhana. Because it's Ekadasi today, so we're doing this very small parikrama. So we start off by glorifying Hari-deva, and we understand this Hari-das Avarya, his magnificence. Even it's described, he provides rivers and sweet, sweet water for drinking. He provides sarovars for their bathing. He provides even soft stones to sit on. Krishna's flute has melted so many of the rocks, and they've remained soft. So when Krishna wants a soft bed, for example, in the caves, there are mirrors, there are lamps, there are every facility for Krishna's confidential pastimes. And there was a particular year when we performed our Navadvip Parikrama here in Govardhana, because there was a problem with Srila Gurudev going across to Navadvip. So we had our Navadvip Parikrama here in Govardhana. And in that year, Srila Gurudev was explaining to us, only that one time I've ever heard him explain, that Giriraj must be in the female form. There are three forms we can worship. We can worship him as Giriraj, that supreme Krishna who took all the offerings at Anayor, when he manifested himself as this mountain, as Giriraj, or we can honor him as Hari-das Avarya, or Hari-das. We can honor him as the servant. We can worship him as a servant because he's serving Krishna in so many respects. Or the third proposition is we can honor him as Girirani, because my Gurudev explains that how can there be two Purushas in the confidential pastimes between Krishna and the gopis? There can only be a single male, a single Purush. So Govardhana must be Girirani in a female form. So my Gurudev introduced us at that time to the conception of Giriraj being Girirani. So there are three forms, and we can worship Giriraj in any of these forms, whichever is our natural inclination, either as Giriraj, as Krishna directly, or as the greatest servant, as the gopis have described him as, this Hari-das Avarya, the greatest servant of Krishna in every single way, in every respect, he's the greatest servant. Or we can glorify him as Girirani, that personality who assists Krishna in his Nikunja Leelas, on Govardhana itself, in the caves, etc. So we can remember all these descriptions of Govardhana. And as I said initially, without the blessings of Hari-deva at the beginning of our parikrama, forever, whenever we take a parikrama, a short parikrama or a long parikrama, we always have to seek the blessings of Hari-deva. He is the Ishtadev. He's the Ishtadev of Govardhana. This is Hari-deva, the Ishtadev of Govardhana. So today we're taking his blessings, and we've got a beautiful darshan of him on the picture. You can see his beautiful form, and he's dressed very beautifully daily. I was fortunate enough this morning to take his blessings, and they prepared a very beautiful Ekadasi prasad distribution from his Abhishek, and very relishable. So this is Hari-deva. And in front of Hari-deva is an ancient, very large hall. And when we were with my Gurudev, he would make us run up and down this large hall in tremendous kirtan, because it's a very, very high roof. It's a huge roof. It's a huge building. And we would have tremendous loud kirtans in this Hari-deva Mandir. So it's very dear to my Gurudev, very dear to the yatris. And without this blessing of Hari-deva, our parikrama cannot be successful. So Hari-deva ki jai. So this is the first place we're stopping at today, is Hari-deva. And then we come around the corner. We go out of this building, down the large steps, and we go around to the left, and we come to Manasi Devi. This Manasi Devi, if you open the screen, you can see that there are 4 heads that are being worshipped. And today I was very fortunate because I've seen before many times, but today I saw complete darshan without any cloth on. So I could recognize the 4 heads very, very clearly. Of course, I wasn't allowed to take a photograph, but I was allowed right in close. And the first head is Durga Ma herself. That's Manasi Devi, Durga Ma. She's sitting on her rider of the lion or the tiger. The second head is the face of the lion or the tiger. So the first head from the right is Durga Devi or Manasi Devi. And then the second head is the face of her carrier, either a lion or a tiger, whichever we want to understand. The tiger, I think, is more common. And then the next head, the third head, this is Gopal himself. There's a beautiful form of Gopal directly in front of that lion's head. So that's the third head. Then the fourth head, which is very large, is actually a huge Govardhana Shila. And today I was able to see him very closely for the first time. And the face looks like an old man. He has like a beard even. Mustache is coming down. And this is a Govardhana Shila. So this is the fourth head. This is Govardhana directly himself. So these 4 personalities are residing right beside this temple of Hari-deva. So we offer pranam here and we take shelter of Manasi Devi, the presiding deity of Manasi Ganga. Manasa Ganga is just immediately to our right, just down some steps, and we come to Manasi Ganga, where we can take Achaman. But before we come to Manasi Ganga, we have the beautiful Kund on our left here. When we're facing Manasi Devi, these Thakurjis, we turn around, and there is Brahma-kunda right behind us. So this is the place where Lord Brahma, he came to beg forgiveness from Krishna for stealing the cows, the calves, and the cowherd boys. He came here. He felt that Krishna was in a very wonderful, joyful mood. Always is in a joyful mood when he's associating closely with Govardhana, Giriraj Govardhana. The whole mood of Govardhana is always festive. It's a festival atmosphere. So Lord Brahma, he came into this atmosphere and he offers many prayers. This is Brahma-kunda you're seeing here now. Actually, this was in a very dilapidated condition some years before, but now it's been refurbished to some degree. And not a lot of yatris actually go there, but Nityananda Prabhu himself went there. Nityananda Prabhu spent a single night on the banks of Brahma-kunda. So we remember Nityananda while we're here. Of course, without the conception of Mahaprabhu, we wouldn't even be here. So we're fortunate to remember specifically Nityananda's pastimes of resting on the banks of Brahma-kunda. And we're remembering the pastime of Lord Brahma coming and offering his prayers of regret and remorse to Krishna, begging for forgiveness for stealing his dear sakas and his calves, etc. So this kund lies right behind Manasi Devi. So we have these 3 places very close to each other: Hari-deva, Manasi Devi, and Brahma-kunda. So today we're offering these 3 places with great humility and happiness and joy. As I said previously, always there's a festive atmosphere in Govardhana. Today, even there were not so many people because Bahulastami's just finished and the crowds were much less, but there was still that surcharged mood in the atmosphere of sweetness and speciality. Giriraj Maharaj is always abundant in his munificence of giving. He's always giving. There's always music around Govardhana. There's always kirtan happening around Govardhana. There's never a silent moment around Govardhana. There's always dancing. There's always great joy and festivity. This is the mood of Giriraj Govardhana. So we're most fortunate to come to this place today and take darshan specifically of Hari-deva to bless us for the rest of our parikrama, because we're going to be here for a few days. We'll be doing the south end parikrama, which is the larger parikrama through Govardhana Hill and Pucheri and Jetipur. And then on another day, we'll do the north end, going through Udav-kund, Radha-kund, and Kusum Sarovar. We'll be going through that area, the shorter area. So we'll be circumambulating all of Govardhana. So this is the introduction to our small parikrama today. So Hari-deva ki jai, Manasi Devi ki jai, Brahma-kunda ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Vansha Kalpa Turupyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vevacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.
Thank you, Maharaj. That was beautiful. Very important that Gurudev always stressed we start our parikrama at Sri Hari-deva Mandir. So I particularly
Excuse me, someone just asked a question. How did Manasa Ganga manifest from Hari-deva? He manifests by the calling of Krishna. And Vaikanas Maharaj is going to tell this pastime when we get to Mukharavinda at the end. He will tell that pastime.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. I was saying I particularly liked the three forms of Giriraj that we can worship. So Giriraj as the servant to Krishna, Giriraj as Krishna, and then as Girirani. So I particularly liked that one. And then, of course, Manasi Devi, I actually didn't know before this what the four heads were. So that was also beautifully described. Thank you, Maharaj. So yeah, we'll move on now to our next speaker, who is Shripad Shuddhaveti Maharaj. Maharaj, the floor is yours.
Yeah. There it is.
Unmute again.
You're unmuted, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Jaivacha, Patitanam Pavanyo, Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So after visiting Hari-deva, who lifted Govardhana at that very place, and visiting Manasa Devi, and Brahma-kunda, we going all around the Manasi Ganga, and we come, leaving her always on the right, we come to Chakratirtha. So Chakratirtha is a place actually where the gopis used to take a boat to cross the Ganga, Manasi Ganga. We will hear Ekadasi Maharaj telling that very sweet lila of Noka Vihar after I finish speaking. So we come to Cakalesvara Mahadeva. Chakratirtha, chakra, Cakalesvara means the master of the chakra. At that time, when Indradev had vowed to destroy Braj because he couldn't tolerate that his worship had been stopped, then what happened? Lord Shiva, to serve Giriraj, serve Krishna, what did he do? With his trident, he made his trident go so fast, like a wind, like a chakra. Therefore, it's called Cakalesvara. And therefore, although Indra had called those Sampataka clouds, which are coming only at the end of the world for the big pralaya, not one drop actually fell on Govardhana. He was completely protected. So because he protected with his chakra, he is called Cakalesvara Mahadeva. And if you see, you have four lingams, Shiva lingams. The Cakalesvara is the middle one, and right behind there's a beautiful carving of Krishna lifting Govardhana with all the inhabitants of Braj. We can see the cows under, taking shelter. So this is a service that Lord Shiva ran. The temple of Lord Shiva is a samadhi of Sanatana Gosvami. Srila Sanatana Gosvami used to spend time there doing his bhajan on the bank of Manasi Ganga, like many sadhus still are doing nowadays. And the place is very, very peaceful. Just next to the Manasi Ganga, next to the lake, But Sanatana Goswami was considering, there's so many mosquitoes here, maybe I will go. So Lord, no, one Brahmin came, some say it was Lord Shiva himself, who didn't want to be separated from Sanatana Goswami, who promised, no, please no, stay here. I will arrange that there will be no problem for mosquitoes. And he said, since that day, 500 years, mosquito has never given any problem to anyone there. So this is that place of his samadhi. His bhajana-kutira. No, there is a beautiful picture of him inside. Maybe if you show the next slide. Oh, here it is. Yeah, nice painting of Sanatana Goswami. So we have a special relationship with the 6 Goswamis because they are our worshipable masters. We sing every day, Echai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan. I offer my pranams to the feet of the Goswamis. I consider their food dust to be my More Pancha Gras, my 5 kinds of foodstuff. And I'm praying that life after life, I will be serving them in a company of devotees. No, because they have given us the highest contribution. We say, Echai Goswami Raje Kaulavas, Radha Krishna Nityalila Korila Prakash. The 6 Goswamis, what did they do? They were sent by Mahaprabhu to renovate, to find lost places of pilgrimage, renovate them, install deities, and write books about bhakti, and the 4th thing, write books about Vaishnava behavior, Vaishnava sadhana. So they did that. But Sanatana Goswami is the first one who has established the worship of Madan Mohan. Now, Srila Prabhupada, my Gurudev, explains in the Adilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita that all the Vedas deal with 3 subjects: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. So, and 3 deities correspond to that. Madan Mohan is for Sambandha, Govinda for Abhideya, and Gopinath for Prayojan. And 3 acharyas also correspond to those 3 steps. So Sanatana Goswami, he established the worship of Madan Mohan. He is the acharya of Sambandha Gyan. Therefore, if we read Sanatana Siksha in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find everything about the ontology of the soul and relationship with Krishna, and the relationship between Krishna and everything in this world. Because Sambandha Gyan really means what is the relationship of the soul with the Lord, the soul with the world? What is the relationship of the Lord with the world? All those interactions. This is Sambandha Gyan. And Srila Gurudev, Srila Narayan Maharaj always told us, you have to chant the holy name with Sambandha Gyan, means with knowledge of your relationship. The other day we were discussing that at the time of Diksha, within the Gopal mantra, the Guru puts the knowledge of the form of Krishna, the original form of Krishna, Bhagavat Svarupa Gyan, and also he gives the knowledge of your specific relationship with Krishna. So really, this is done under the auspices of Sanatana Goswami. This is his contribution. So we get connected with Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan is the first form of Krishna we should worship. And Madan Mohan, what is he doing? He's winning our attachment to this world. He's cutting our attachments. And then when that attachment have been subdued somewhat, then the next deity that we worship is Govinda Dev. And Rupa Goswami is the Acharya of Abhideya. Rupa Goswami has written the most extensive work of defining the whole science of bhakti. Srila Gurudev used to call Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Paribhasa Sutra, the book of definition. Any item of bhakti, any name, any word about bhakti that you hear, it is defined in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is like the book of definition. And then the second part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is Ujjvala Nilamani, which deals exclusively with Madhurya Ras. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Prabhupada presented as a nectar of devotion deals with all kinds of bhakti, all different rasas, giving example for everything. And Ujjvala Nilamani will deal specifically with Madhurya Ras and all its subtleties. So we are so much indebted to Sanatana Goswami. That's why we have a particular affinity with him, Because as we approach Krishna, he's the Acharya to guide us, Sambandha Gyan. Raghunath Das Goswami himself in his Vilapakusumanjali has written this famous verse, that I never managed to learn beyond the first line. Vairagya yug bhakti rasam prayatner apayayam mam anamipsum amdam kripam buddhya paraduka duki sanatanastam prabhum ashrayami. I was unwilling to drink the nectar of bhakti ras, laced with renunciation. But Srila Sanatana Goswami, being an ocean of mercy, who cannot tolerate the suffering of others, induced me to drink it. Therefore, I take shelter of Srila Sanatana Goswami. If you remember, or Srila Prabhupada, change this verse and replace the name Sanatan with the name of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, because he's the one who convinced him to take sannyas. Through the insistence of Srila Gurudev. Remember when Srila Prabhupada was in Mathura, having left Jhansi with unsuccessful preaching, then he was still trying to manage to sell some of his medical products. And one day Srila Gurudev saw him in Mathura, next to the Jamuna, living in a small place. And when he saw that, he said, no, we cannot tolerate that you are our spiritual uncle. I cannot tolerate that you stay there. So by force, he took Prabhupada's belongings and brought him to the mat, Keshavji Gaudiya mat. At that time, there were only 2 rooms beside the deity room. And he had a room for himself, and he arranged Prabhupada to occupy the second room. And then he was always talking with him very intimately. They exchanged very wonderfully. And then he was saying that to preach, you must take sannyas. And the next time that his Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj came, then Srila Narayana Maharaj told, oh, Gurudev, I think you should give sannyas to Abed Babu, Abed Sharan Babu, the Prabhupada's civil name. And then Srila Prabhupada was saying, in his humility, my Guru appeared to me in dreams, saying that you should take sannyas. And Prabhupada was saying, I was horrified. Just the idea of taking sannyas, I was horrified. But he came regularly to induce me to do that. And then therefore Prabhupada wrote that verse with replacing Sanatans by Bhakti Pragyan Keshav. I was unwilling to drink this nectar of Bhakti Ras blessed with renunciation. Because in the line of Mahaprabhu, it says Vairagya Pradhan. Renunciation is prominent. And when Mahaprabhu sees renunciation in his followers, he's very pleased. It's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, if I remember properly. It's Vairagya Pradhan. So Bhakti Ras, but laced with Vairagya. And nobody likes really Vairagya. If we knew what Vairagya really means, we like it, because Vairagya actually means Vishesh Rag, a special taste. And we cannot really be Vairagis, true renunciants, unless we have tested something higher. Therefore, we always goaded by our gurus, embrace the path of bhakti full-heartedly. Srila Saraswati Thakur had coined this word, don't come with a return ticket. Because he, after the first parikram in Navadvip, when the parikram was over, all the devotees were going back to their places. And Saraswati Thakur became very sober and he said, I enter in a relationship with you because you were saying that you wanted to serve Krishna, and now you're going back. I feel cheated. You are cheating me. One should not come to the parikram with a return ticket. So he coined that phrase that our acharyas later on followed. Yes. So Sanatana Goswami is the one who is introducing us to bhakti and blessing us. Therefore, when we go to and goodies, we pray to his lotus feet, please, fertilize that in Spanish. Please reinforce my sambandha, my relationship with Krishna. You're the acharya. Please, I beg you, I need to strengthen my relationship. So this is the place of Sanatana Goswami. Also in Vrindavan, Sanatana Goswami was going regularly to Gopeshwar Mahadev from Madan Mohan, but when he became older, then he told, no, I cannot go every day. So because there is a special relationship between Lord Shiva and Sanatana Goswami, he came halfway to Bankandi Mahadev, which is halfway between Gopeshwar Mahadev and there. And the same thing happened with Sanatana Gosvami. Every day he would do the parikram of Govardhana, the whole parikram. When he became quite old, one day it was very hot and he was like sweating. He was completely like drenched with sweat. He was so tired and he sat, but there was no shade. At a place where he was so tired, he couldn't go further. There were no trees, so he just sat down. And suddenly, a very beautiful young boy came and just, lifted his pitamba, his yellow shawl, and put it over his head. And with the other hand, started to fan him. And what this breeze created by the fanning by this beautiful boy, and the boy touching him, all his fatigue went away and he became all cool. And then the boy said, oh, you are so old. You don't have to do anymore the parikram every day. Look, I'm giving you a stone of Govardhana, and it has Krishna's stick and Krishna's lotus footprint on it. So you just go around that stone, and you will not need to do the whole parikram. It will be as good as. So this deity, this big Shila, first was in the Radha Damodar temple, but then it was moved to Jaipur. And they have a pratibus, they have like a replica of that stone. And Srila Gurudev used to say that if you go to Radha Damodar and you go 4 times around the temple with all the samadhis, then you get the benefit of doing the whole Govardhana parikram. Therefore, this is a practice of devotees living in Vrindavan. Every day, after Mangal Arati, they go to Radha Damodar and they circumambulate 4 times, remembering Krishna's words that by doing this, you get the same benefit. So that is something about Sanatana Goswami. So much can be said, but I don't want to go off track, and I want to leave also some time for Ekadasi Maharaj to describe the beautiful pastime. Actually, because this pastime started from Chakratirtha, I should have spoken it, but no.
Two places again.
Because in the parikram book, he said gopis were going from there. But this is a very beautiful lila. We will listen from the lotus mouth of Srila. Oh, thank you for reminding me. When Nityananda Prabhu first did the parikram of Govardhana, then he sat there and spent some time there. And Mahaprabhu, when he came himself, he also went there and he rested there. And therefore, they have installed some very beautiful deities. I took this picture this morning, actually, that you see on the screen right now. The other picture, I took them this very morning when I did half of the parikram on the Ekadasi. I didn't want to do the whole thing. I'll do it with other devotees on Govardhana Day. So there are those beautiful deities there. And if you see that the very beautiful smiling Giriraj on the left. Just before we heard from Srila Maharaj about we can worship Giriraj in many ways. So Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan Maharaj, he was saying that Govardhana is 99% Haridas and is 1% Girirani, just for those pastime when Krishna is enjoying the Radhika in the caves of Govardhana. Just for that time, temporarily, is 1% Girirani. Otherwise, it's 99% Giriraj. It means Haridas Varya. And Srila Gurudev says there's a big difference worshipping Giriraj as Krishna and as a devotee. You get much more benefit worshipping him as a devotee than as Krishna personally. So it can be worshipped, like Maharaj said, in different ways. Like when Mahaprabhu gave the Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami, he said, worship it as Krishna, right? But the gopis said, is Haridas Varya. And Gurudev said, what should we do? Oh, we accept the gopis' authority. Radhika says Haridas Varya, therefore we follow them. And also he revealed that very intimate point that because he's witness of those intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna in his caves, that he must be in a female form. So Bhakti Janardhan was precise. He's 1% female just for those pastimes. Otherwise, he's 99 Haridas Varya. Vanchakalpataruyascha kripa sindhubhyayivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I did. You didn't listen.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. And I appreciate the way you explained that Sanatana Goswami is the Goswami for Sambandha Gyan and the relationship, for how important it is for us to remember our relationship between the Lord and the soul. So thank you for that. And then, of course, how Gurudev mentioned that if we go 4 times round the Damodar temple, that it is the same as doing a Giriraj Parikrama. And I think a lot of devotees like myself, we love to do that when we're in Vrindavan. So thank you so much, Maharaj. It was absolutely beautiful. We move on to our next speaker now, and that is Sripad Vaikanas Maharaj. Maharaj, I can see you on the screen. The floor is yours.
Okay, I'm unmuted, yes? I am. Agyana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshunamanitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapayano Viraha Tara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Taravo Benedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatusmi Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, so we always begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Pavishta Om Vishnu Pada Tarasata Sri Simad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Marashula Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Pavishta Om Vishnu Pada Tarasata Sri Simad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and unto our exalted Rupanuga Varga and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Right, this time now we're spending in Govardhana, many, many memories, right? Sri Dandi Maharaj has brought up the idea of that in 2004, how instead of going to Navadvip, all the devotees assembled at our mat it wasn't completed yet, but the deities had been installed at Giriraj Gaudiya Mat. Construction had been going on for many years. And it's the exact same spot that our Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj had spent some time doing very intimate solitary bhajan in that same place, and had very extraordinary interactions with Radha and Krishna and other Brajbasis, very confidential things that went there. And that year was also the same year that he forced me to take sannyas. Unwilling, right, to taste the nectar of devotion laced with renunciation, and in that place in the Giriraj Gaudiya Mat. So many deep samskaras, and I remember going to we're going to speak about Manasi Ganga. Going to that place under the guidance with Srila Gurudev and what we would do, right? Because we would usually go, what day would we go on through I can't remember which day it would be that we would go, but we would all march down from the mat. It's not very far from there into the town, and then go down the steps into the place called Mukharavinda, which is the place where the very large Shila of Giriraj is manifest, and that's considered to be like the face of Giriraj, right? The description has been given that all of Govardhana, and some places it resembles the tail of a peacock at one far end, and where we are, Radhakund and Shamakund are like the eyes, and like a cow turns his head and curls it inward towards his belly, and his mouth, it would be where that Manasi Ganga is. and where that Shila is. And Gurudev would go in, and we would all, it's a very large area, but we had so many devotees there that we would just fill it up. And I remember being fortunate enough to get a spot right next to Gurudev where he and Madam Raj, with assistance of Brajnath and a few others, would do the Abhishek there. But from behind, there was such a crush. There were so many hundreds and hundreds of devotees just pushing to get closer and closer to Gurudev. And, feeling that pressure, it was like, like a tidal wave, almost pushing us into Gurudev, just praying to Giriraj to give us strength to prevent that. But then he would bathe, and then we would go out into a more spacious area because the pilgrims would be coming in. He didn't want to take up the space. And then we would hear the stories of Manasi Ganga, how she manifested, and also some other stories about the boat pastimes. Sometimes the boat pastimes are told that they happened at the Manasi Ganga because it used to be very large. One description says as large as 8 miles wide. And sometimes be described that they'd be crossing the Jamuna. But all of these different pastimes, including the pastime of how Manasi Ganga manifest, they happen in different yugas, right? And so there may be some little difference in how it happens. So there are actually 3 different stories. If you look at our Parikram book, there are 3 different stories given about how this actually took place. And the first one is described that the gopis insisted that Krishna atoned for the sin of killing this giant bull. Remember Aristasura? We heard that pastime. We heard that this was the reason that Radha-kund was created, and that Krishna bathed in Radha-kund to atone for his sins, or actually in his Shama-kund and then Radha-kund after. But in this case, it's told, they were telling him to bathe in Manasi Ganga. Well, in different ages, the pastimes may take slightly different form. If you've ever read any of the Garga Samhita, this is compiled by Garga Rishi, and he talks about many of the same leelas, but from a different time in which Krishna appeared. And so there are some differences in the Leela of Lord Indra attacking Govardhana. There's some differences, and killing of Dhenukasura. Krishna actually did it, not Baladev. So different pastimes. So in any case, we understand that Manasi Ganga is Ganga Devi herself. And the main story we would hear would be that the Brajbasis, headed by Nanda Maharaj, had a desire to go bathe in Ganga, right? Because all pious people in India, from time immemorial, from the time when Ganga first manifested, it was considered very important to go there, right? To this day, to somehow bathe in Ganga Devi. And so they all decided, and they all packed up, and off they went in carts, giant carts. Beautiful descriptions. Whenever the Brajbasis go off in their carts, these carts, if you've seen the carts of gypsies, nowadays where they have a little traveling home, right? Nowadays they're motor homes and all, but in times past they would be pulled by horses. The cowherd men and women, they would also transport themselves pulled by bullocks in these carts, and in the Gopal Champa it's described that they were sometimes 2 and 3 stories high, right? With different things going on at different levels, right? So they're all traveling, and Krishna's with them as well, sitting in the cart with his mother and Rohini, and they get as far as Govardhana, and Krishna's thinking, why should my parents and all the Brajbasis undergo so much trouble to go all the way to Ganga? Because it's quite far, right? It's quite far. It would take, weeks and weeks and weeks to walk there at a very good pace. Remember the story of Madhavinda Puri and how long it would take him, or Rupa Sanatan, going whatever part you want to go to. So So he thought, oh, Ganga Devi should come here. So remembering Ganga Devi, in his own mind, calling to her, she immediately comes. She responds because she's the servant of the Lord. And Ganga Devi, she can do that. Remember the story of how she first appeared, following the chariot of Maharaj Bhagirata, coursing all through from India, from the Himalayas all through India, across all the way to Gangasagar, right, the place where she meets at the sea. Right? So she came independently to that spot and making a very sweet sound, as rivers can, right? And she came at the head of the current, riding her mount, her alligator, right? And all the Brajbasis saw, and Krishna said, now you have no need, right? Ganga Devi has come here. Because after all, Braj is the place where the original tirthas in their original forms, all the holy rivers, all the holy tirthas exist in Braj in their original purest form. And so you wanted to bathe in the Ganga, so Ganga Devi has personally come. And this is a great benediction to Ganga Devi as well. We think, oh, now the Brajbasis are blessed, but actually Ganga Devi is blessed because she gets to serve all the Brajbasis, right? And Krishna himself, right? So actually, this took place on the day, the Amavasya day, the day that we celebrate as Deepavali. And so now, whenever, every time, and we would do that also at our mat, candles would be lit all over the mat, and everyone would go down in the evening to Manasi Ganga, and with candles, worship her, and pray. Pray for what? Ordinary people, they'll go and they'll pray to Ganga for their sins to be expiated, and then pray for some benefit in this world, right? Something generally along the lines of good family, good wealth, good health, good comforts, all of these things. And if they're devotees, they may pray so that I can do my service better. Kind of mixed, but something. But then we as devotees, what do we pray for when we go to Manasi Ganga? We pray for the service of the Brajbasis. As Ganga Devi herself came to serve the Brajbasis, we pray that we can also enter into that service. And in what way? Serving in what way? As Palyadasis of Srimati Radhika. Because if you serve Srimati Radhika, then you are serving everyone. In fact, all of Vrindavan is arranged in order to assist Radhika in her service to Madhurya Ras, right? Madhurya Leela. Everything in Vrindavan, the great stage of Vrindavan, all the forest, all the rivers, Giriraj we've been hearing, it's all arranged to serve this highest and most beautiful Ras. This is why Vrindavan has been created. This is why Radhika expands in so many ways, right? And so the other story is that Jamuna and Ganga Devi are sisters. And Ganga Devi was feeling a little, not mundane envious, but feeling that, oh, her younger sister Jamuna is so fortunate because Krishna appears and does so many beautiful pastimes in her waters, right? And that she wished that she could have that same opportunity, right? And so in order to fulfill that, she expressed a desire to Jamuna. This is what we do. If we have a desire in any way to serve, we don't approach Krishna directly. We approach the servants of Krishna. And to go back to Govardhana, worshiping him as was stated by Maharaj, we worship him in his best form as Hari-das Avarya, the servant of Krishna. You read the Govardhana Vasa Partana Dashakam by Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. He's glorifying Giriraj in relation to all the beautiful services that Giriraj does. And let me have a place by your side. let me assist you in that service. So she wants to also serve. She wants to serve as a place for Krishna and his beloved Braja-devis to do lovely and wonderful pastimes. Krishna and his cowherd boys, Krishna and his cows, Krishna and his parents, right? So he summoned her, and she came, right? So everything springs from that, actually, that Ganga Devi's desire to serve. And there's another part of that, that she was also given the benediction that, yes, primarily Yamuna is in Vrindavan. Now you have this special place. But when I appear in the Kali Yuga, I will appear in the form of my own devotee. I will be me, it will be Krishna, and all my Brajbasis will be there. So many will be there with me. And then we'll sport in your waters. Right? And so he does as Mahaprabhu. He sports within the Ganga. Right? And actually, in Navadvip, both the Jamuna and the Ganga flow in what we call the Ganga. There are two halves. On one bank is mostly the Jamuna flowing, and on the other bank is the Ganga. And they are flowing side by side, serving side by side. And then there's one other small story that is related to that we usually tell in Navadvip when we're on Parikram and we're on our way to, on the last day, to Modadumadvip or Mamagachi. On the way, we stop at the place of Janak Rishi, right? And then, because when the Ganga came through, she was captured by Janak Rishi for some time, and then released. And so there's a pastime of the Ganga that comes up that when Jiva Goswami was in Vrindavan, I think it was Akbar, was in Agra, and had arranged for a great meeting of brahmanas and devotees, because there was a debate. Who's the topmost river? Is it the Ganga or is it the Jamuna? All right. Now, most people throughout India will immediately, default to the Ganga. Ganga is more well known than the Jamuna. The glories of the Ganga are more well known than the Jamuna. Jamuna is more well known to Krishna bhaktas and devotees because of the pastimes there. But the secrets of the Jamuna are not, even among devotees, are not as well understood. You have to be in the line of Mahaprabhu to really enter into the depth of appreciation. So there's a great debate, and after many days, there are two very distinct camps, right? And they couldn't resolve it, which of the two rivers was best, right? So Akbar sent a messenger to Vrindavan, to Jiva Goswami, who is known as the greatest scholar and greatest devotee, and requested that you please come and reconcile and resolve this debate, right? And so Jiva Goswami had to respond. He said, well, no, I've taken a vow that I will never spend a night outside of Vrindavan. And so Agra, what is it, 60, 80 kilometers from Vrindavan? How is it possible that I can go there, attend the debate, and then come back? So the king said, well, what I'll do then is I'll set up a relay of chariots. Every few kilometers, I'll have a fresh chariot, right? And so this way the horses can go full speed. A horse going full speed, or even pulling a chariot, can go about 25 miles an hour, which is, 35, 40 kilometers an hour. They could run, so if they're fresh. So he could make it to Agra with that kind of situation, just a couple hours, maybe 2.5 hours, right? So he said, okay. So they took him down early in the morning, and he attended the debate. And there were two groups, right? Devotees advocating for Jamuna and devotees advocating for Ganga. Both are devotees, both are wonderful. And so he began by saying, let us consider from this perspective. who are each of these persons? Ganga Devi, how did she appear? What is her identity? When Lord Vaman pierced the universe with his toe to release the Ganga into this world, and first the higher planets, right? She washed his feet. So she's like a intimate servant of Vamandev, right? So a very wonderful position. And then, of course, she was later brought to the earth, but we can understand her in that way. And Jamuna, who is she? She's generally known, even though we know her as Vishaka, right? She's generally known as Kalindi, one of Krishna's queens. And so Jiva Goswami was giving evidence for that the Jamuna is Kalindi, the queen of Krishna in Dwarka. Vamandev is Krishna's expansion, right? And Krishna in Dwarka is greater than Vamandev, and Kalindi is the queen to that Krishna. So who is greater, the queen or the servant, right? And so in that sense, Jamuna is greater. And of course, that made the adherents of, the worshippers of Jamuna very happy. But then he reconciled it in a transcendental way. But the fact that Mahaprabhu, Krishna in Vrindavan is the source of Krishna in Dwarka, right? And of course, so he's bathing in that Jamuna, so you would still think that makes him greater, but that same Krishna also appeared in Navadvip. We know that Krishna is non-different, and he's bathing in the rivers of the Ganga. So the Ganga, in that sense, is equally fortunate and equally glorious, right? And of course, that same Ganga is also appearing in Vrindavan. So we don't make that distinction, who is higher and lower, because the Lord, in his original form, one as Krishna and one as the devotee of Krishna, even though he's Krishna himself, are both sporting in the divine waters of the Ganga and the Jamuna, right? However, there's one warning that you should have, that if you go to the Ganga and bathe, your sins will be removed, right? You remove your sins. The deleterious effects of sinful activity will be removed. You'll remove all the dark reactions, sinful reaction. But if you bathe in the Jamuna, all your pious credits may also be removed. In other words, all your connection, not just your sinful reactions, but your pious reactions. And so your connection with the material world will be removed entirely, right? So if you at all value your happiness, your friendship, your family, and all of that, then don't go to the Jamuna, where that beautiful threefold bending form of Sri Krishna is, because then you'll become attracted to him, and bathing in her waters, you'll lose all attraction to everything else, and you'll just become a beggar in Vrindavan. You may have once consorted with kings and wealthy people like the Goswamis, right? They were the consorts of kings. They had enormous wealth. They gave it all up for torn cloth and ragged quilts. And Srila Prabhupada, last thing I'll say, when he was in America sending a little letter to our Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, he began to describe his successful preaching. And he said, oh, now I'm in the West. Everything is going so wonderfully. The preaching is so nice. And one of the effects is I have no less than 6 people serving me at every moment, right? And everywhere I go, I have houses now all over America, all over the world, and I have nice cars everywhere. They give me opulent food. And he's describing all the opulences of his preaching movement. And he says, but I am thinking and I am remembering and missing the torn quilt of the Gaudiya Math. The simple life of the Gaudiya Math. And I can say that having grown up in ISKCON and lived like that and experienced the the opulent preaching, and there is a reason for it, because you're dealing in the Western world, and they don't appreciate if you look like a ragged beggar. They don't take you seriously. So Srila Prabhupada wanted his devotees to look clean, to look pucka, to wear very nice cloth, all of that, right? But that can go to your head. You know, all Srila Prabhupada wore a watch. I'm going to wear a nice watch. I need a briefcase. I need a tape recorder. I need silks. And then that can expand in the name of preaching. But when you joined Gurudev's mission, all of a sudden, you began to experience and taste that, what that meant to live in really much more austere conditions. And living in Bangalore for so many years, you know, we had torn cloth. We didn't have opulent things, you know. And you become very appreciative of that, you know, that the less you have, the less you have to worry about, right? And then you become attached. But, you know, Maharaj was talking about vairagya, right? Visheshrag. That real vairagya means what? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchate. To engage everything in the service of Krishna, nothing separate. That's real renunciation. Then automatically renunciation. No sense of possession, right? So we go to Manasi Ganga, we go to these places and we bathe and we beg for that. Sanatana Gosvami, the absolute pinnacle, he and Raghunath Das living in these places, showing us the example of what it really means to be a Gaudiya, right? And so just remembering Gurudev at these places, and when we went and he spoke and he told these stories, we were just filled with such a sense of urgency that we would become like that. Oh, I forgot something. I'm supposed to tell the boat story, because now I just had this little spurti of Gurudev sitting down in a place and telling the boat story. I forgot completely about it. All right, I'll tell the boat story quickly. There's different backgrounds to the boat story, but essentially it's this. The gopis have to cross the river. In this case, it could be Manasi Ganga, because one time it was there. And they had all their milk products and everything, and they have to cross to get to perhaps the sacrifice of Bugari Rishi. One time it was to go and meet with their vas, you know, but in this case to go to the yajna, to serve the other devotees, right? The Brahmins. But there was no one around, and there was no boatman. And they're looking here and there. This is the way I remember Gurudev telling it in a very sweet way. And over on one side, under a tree in the shade, was a raggedy old boatman sleeping. And looking everywhere, they can't find anyone else. And then there's a raggedy old boat with him. And they finally say, well, we should ask him. And they say, hey, boatman, can you take us over? And he said, oh, I'm too tired. I can't. Please take us over. We have to go. And he argues with them a little bit. And then he agrees. Of course he argues with them. Remember, this is Krishna disguised. So any excuse, any opportunity to create some tension and some debate and argument, he relishes that, right? Because the gopis are so clever in their retorts and their insults. And they insulted him, of course. And then they get in the boat and they say, oh, is this boat going to make it? And Krishna says, hey, my boat is very good. Don't you worry. I have the best of boats. And so they start to go across. And then, by Krishna's desire, a storm comes up, right? And waves begin to increase more and more. And then Krishna, being very clever, stands up in the boat. He's poling the boat or paddling it. And he begins to accentuate that, leaning back and forth. And the boat begins to rock more and more. And the waves are coming up and the wind is blowing and the gopis become very frightened. And Krishna says, oh, we're in a dangerous condition. My old boat, it may leak. You know, we're going to sink. We have too much weight. Throw over your milk products. Throw over those heavy pots. They say, yes, yes. They throw over the yogurt, the milk, the butter, everything. And Krishna says, oh, the boat, it's still rocking. It's still too heavy. throw over your jewels, your gold, all of that. And the gopis are saying, what are jewels? And they don't want to do it, but then they say, oh, we have to. And they throw all the jewels over. And then the boat's turbulent even more and more. And then Krishna says, oh, there's no hope. Throw over your clothes. And then they say, throw over our clothes, we'll throw you over. And but while it's rocking like this, Radhika gets tossed into Krishna and she grabs him, right? So she won't tumble off the side. And as soon as she grabs him, she realizes, who this boatman is. It's actually that clever, as Srimati Lalita would say, this chief of liars, chief of dacoits, chief of unchaste men, chief of cheaters. It's Krishna himself. And then she becomes very happy. They all begin laughing, and the boat, everything calms down. And and then there's a story about that. When when we're at that mat that year, they were putting all these, frescoes, not frescoes, what do you call them? Bas relief that the Gaudiya mats have of all the different pastimes, right? And the bas relief itself, the carvings were done by local artists, but the paintings were done by Gurudev's own devotees, headed by Shamarani, which transformed them. They made them look so extraordinary. And on the back side of the altar is the boat pastime. And Shamarani gave them directions how to make these molds, what to show. And she asked Gurudev for instructions, and he was telling her this and that. But at this point, he said, I'm not giving you any more instructions. You have to meditate and you'll understand yourself. So the boat pastime, it came to her in her own heart. And then she had it designed, and then she had it painted. And when Gurudev first did parikram around the back, and he looked at that, it takes up the whole wall. It's very large. It's quite magnificent. And he says, oh, you have seen this in your heart. This is just what it looked like, right? Somewhat like that painting we just saw, but much more emotion and sweetness in it. There's a certain realization in that. And when you see it, oh, so magnificent. And can you imagine the feeling those devotees must have had, all those girls that were under her direction painting, and she herself, to be confirmed by Srila Gurudev that your service has been accepted and validated, right? We have so much doubt, every day. But they were in Govardhana. And they were meditating so sincerely and praying to Giriraj to please help us, give us this realization, right? And that is the beauty of this parikram, right? The beauty especially of this Govardhana, this Giriraj, because he's the best. Why is he the best of servants? They're all serving, but how is Yudhishthira serving? He's serving in Hastinapur as a king, a great devotee. But he's serving amongst those kinds of associates as a king. Uddhava, he's in Mathura, first of all, and he was able to serve in such a way that he became a messenger. Almost, there it is. There's part of it. I only see part of it. Almost like a duty, taking Krishna's personal message to the gopis and trying to console them and console his parents. So more intimate, but still he could not enter really deeply into that mood, right? But still, even greater than Yudhishthira. But Govardhana, as we've heard, topmost servant, because he can serve not just the cowherd boys, and the cows, which he's doing, which is described in Venu Geet, but he's serving the gopis in so many of their most intimate services, right? And in the caves and the confidential services. So he's serving all of the Brajbasis and most intimately serving the Brajadevis in their service to Krishna. So all of this is manifested for that. And Manasi Ganga, very important place where Giriraj's face is, and Ganga Devi herself has come, and Gurudev went there so many times, instilled so many beautiful stories into our hearts, and we remember him fondly, pray to him with broken hearts that he come manifest in our heart, share more and more, inspire us, inspire all the devotees, and make this Braj become a reality in our hearts. So with this, I'll stop. Offer my respects to our Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Gurudev, our Guru Parampara, and all the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Yeah.
Hi Krishna, thank you Maharaj. That was so beautiful, and the way you narrate the stories is just so beautiful with so much of emotion, and it's like we're all there. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, just narrating the stories, telling us the pastimes and the manifestation of Manasi Ganga, but then also just giving us little nuggets in between. Like, you know, I really took a couple of things down that you said, like when you said, if we have the desire to serve, we should not approach Krishna, but approach his servants. That is just so true for all of us to remember. And then, of course, very importantly, when you were describing how Srila Prabhupada said that he missed the Gaudiya Math, and just the words you said were, the less you have to worry about. And I think that's very important, especially for someone like me in this material world who's struggling, something that I'll remember. The less you have to worry about. Thank you, Maharaj. Very beautiful. So that brings us to the end of our Harikatha for today. Our closing kirtan is done by Taruni Didi, who's on the line. Yes, she is. Didi, can you unmute?
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Sorry about that.
Yes, Didi, go ahead. So you will conclude our program, and the devotees can join us tomorrow at the same time for day 12.
Okay, if it's all right, we have a song by Srila Sanatana Gosvami. Very sweet song. I don't believe it's in the songbook. I think my husband is posting it in the chat. If it's okay, I'd like to read the translation first so that the devotees can know what I'm singing. Okay. O Krishna, O little cowherd boy, O delight of the gopis, O performer of mischievous childhood pastimes in the company of your like-minded friends of the same age, please be merciful to me. O Krishna, releasing the calves at the wrong time, you smiled to see the residents of Braj lament. You would continually steal butter and also feed it to the monkeys. O Krishna, entering the darkened storeroom, making a staircase of the bench and the grinding mortar, and pulling the ropes, you broke the pots full of milk products. O Krishna, your limbs are illuminated with glistening jewels. Hearing the harsh complaints of the gopis, you became frightened, and your eyes moved restlessly. In this condition, you gave great delight to Mother Yashoda. O Krishna, O source of the devotee's bliss, when Lord Balaram and your other friends reported to Mother Yashoda that you had eaten clay, considering it very palatable foodstuff, she reprimanded you very severely, thinking of your welfare. O Krishna, moving your eyes with pretended fear, you hid among your friends, denying the accusations of Lord Balaram and the others. You vowed to Mother Yashoda that you were innocent. O Krishna, you opened your small lotus mouth, showed the entire universe to Mother Yashoda. She then understood your transcendental opulence, although you again cast illusion on her by your potency. All glories unto you. O Krishna, in this way you increased the love of Mother Yashoda, who affectionately embraced you. Because you fulfilled the benediction offered by Lord Brahma to your devotees Drona and Dara, they were able to become your parents.
Jai.
Prasida Bala Gopala Gopi Gana Mudavaha Anurupa Yayasyapta Charu Kumara Chapala Akalavatsanir Muktir Vrajavyakosha Sushmita Navanita Mahachura Vanarahara Dayaka Pitolukala Sopana Kshirabandha Vipedaka Shikya Bandha Samakashin Dvatakara Praveshakrit Swangaratna Pradipadya Gopi Drashtyati Vadaka Gopi Vratokti Vibramyan Netramatri Prahashana Bhakto Palambanananda Vanchavakrita Mitrika Ramadi Prokta Mridvarta Hitaisyam Bhati Bhashita Krita Kata Salolaksha Mitram Tagudha Vigraha Baladi Vanchana Kshipta Janani Pratyayavaha Vyata Swalopanam Jantar Matri Darshita Vishvahe Jashoda Viditaishvarya Jaya Swaschandya Mohana Savitri Sneha Samshlishta Jashoda Sneha Vardhana Swabhakta Brahma Samdata Darodruna Varata Krit Swabhakta Brahma Samdata Darodruna Varata Krit.
Jai Gopala.
Jai Gopal, Jai Sanatana Gosvami, Hare Krishna.
Hari
Jai
Bol.
Gurudev.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Devi. Thank you to all the devotees for joining, and thank you to all our Maharajas for the beautiful Harikatha. We'll see you all tomorrow.